The Ghost Coach by Amelia B. Edwards. 1. This is a true story. Although 20 years have passed since that night, I can still remember everything about it very clearly indeed. During those 20 years, I have told the story to only one other person. I still feel uncomfortable about telling it. Be patient with me, please. Do not argue, and do not try to explain anything. I do not want your explanations. I do not welcome your arguments. I was there after all, and I have had 20 years to think about it. I had been shooting in the lonely hills in the north of England. I had been out all day with my gun, but without success. It was December, and a bitterly cold east wind was blowing. Snow was beginning to fall from a heavy grey sky. It was becoming dark, and I realized that I had lost my way. I looked around me and saw no signs of human life. Oh well, I thought, I must just keep on walking, and perhaps I'll find shelter somewhere. I put my gun under my arm and started walking. The snow fell heavily. It became very cold, and night was falling fast. I was very tired and hungry. I had been out all day, and I had eaten nothing since breakfast. I thought about my young wife and the hotel in the village. How worried she will be, I thought. I promised to come back before nightfall. I wish I could keep that promise. We had been married just 4 months. We loved each other very much, and of course we were very happy together. I hated to worry her. Well, I thought, perhaps I'll find shelter somewhere. Perhaps I'll meet someone who can tell me how to get back to the hotel. Then, with luck, I'll see my dear wife before midnight. All the time, the snow was falling, and the night was becoming darker. Every few steps I stopped and shouted, but the only sound in that wild, lonely place was the wind. I began to feel uneasy. I had read stories about travelers who were lost in the snow. They walked until they were too tired to walk any more. Then they lay down in the snow and fell asleep and never woke up again. That mustn't happen to me, I said to myself. I can't let it happen. I mustn't die when I have so much to live for. What would my poor wife do without me? I pushed away these frightening ideas. I shouted louder, and then listened for an answer. Above the sad, complaining sounds of the wind, I thought I heard a far-off cry. I shouted again, and again I imagined that I heard an answer. Then, out of the darkness, appeared a little white circle of light. It came nearer. It became brighter. I ran towards it as fast as I could, and found an old man with a lantern. Thank God! I cried. I was very, very pleased to see him. He did not look at all glad to see me, however. He lifted his lantern and stared into my face. "What are you thanking God for?" he growled. Well, I was thanking him for you. I was afraid that I was lost in the snow. "Where are you trying to get to?" "Dwalding." "How far is it from here?" I asked. "About 20 miles, the old man growled. "So you are lost after all." "Oh dear. And where is the nearest village?" "The nearest village is Wyke, and that's 12 miles away from here." "Where do you live, then?" "Over there," he said, pointing with the lantern. "Are you going home, then?" I asked. "Perhaps I am." "Then please let me go home with you," I said. The old man shook his head. "That's no good," he said. "He won't let you in." "Oh, I'm sure he will," I said. "Who is he?" "My master." "Who is your master?" I asked. "That's none of your business," was the old man's rude reply. "Well, please take me to him. I'm sure that your master will give me shelter and supper tonight."
"Well, I don't think he will. But I suppose you can always ask,"
the old man said crossly. He shook his grey head again and started walking. I followed the light of his lantern through the falling snow. Suddenly, I saw a big black shape in the darkness. A huge dog came running towards me. It growled angrily.
"Down, King,"
said the old man. "Is this the house?" I asked.
"Yes, this is the house. Down, King."
And he took a key out of his pocket. The door was huge and heavy. It looked like the door of a prison. The old man turned the key, and I saw my chance. Quickly, I pushed past him into the house. 2. I looked around me. I was in a very big, high hall. While I was looking, a bell rang loudly.
"That's for you,"
said the old man. He gave an unfriendly smile.
"That's the master's room. Over there."
He pointed to a low, black door at the opposite side of the hall. I walked up to it and knocked loudly. Without waiting for an invitation, an old man with white hair was sitting at a table. Papers and books covered the table. He got up and looked very hard at me. "Who are you?" he said. "How did you get here? And what do you want?" "My name is James Murray," I answered. "I'm a doctor. I walked here across the hills. I need food, drink, and sleep." "This is not a hotel," he said. "Jacob, why did you let this stranger into my house?"
"I didn't let him in," growled the old man. "He followed me home, and he pushed past me into the house. I couldn't stop him. He's bigger than I am."
His employer turned to me. "And why did you do that, sir?" he asked. "To save my life," I answered at once. "To save your life?" "The snow is deep already," I replied. "It will be deep enough to bury me before morning." He walked over to the window and looked out at the falling snow. "It's true," he said at last. "You may stay until morning if you wish. Jacob, bring our supper. Sit down, please." He sat down at the table again and began to read. I put my gun in a corner. I sat down near the fire and looked around me. This room was smaller than the hall, but I could see many unusual and interesting things in it. There were books on every chair. There were maps and papers on the floor. "What an interesting room," I said to myself. "And what a strange place to live, here in this lonely farmhouse among these dark hills." I looked round the room, then I looked again at the old man. I wondered about him. Who is he? I thought. What is he? He had a big, beautiful head. It was covered with thick white hair. He had a strong, clever, serious face. There were lines of concentration across his wide, high forehead, and lines of sadness around his mouth. Jacob brought in our supper. His master closed his book and invited me politely to the table. There was a large plate with meat, brown bread, and eggs, and a pot of good, strong coffee. "I hope you're hungry, sir," said the old man. "I have nothing better to offer you." But my mouth was already full of bread and meat. "It's excellent," I said gratefully. "Thank you very much." "You're welcome," he said, politely but coldly. His supper, I saw, was only bread and milk. We ate without speaking. The old man seemed sad. I tried to imagine why he lived such a quiet and lonely life in this far-off place. When we had finished, Jacob took the empty plates away, the window. "It has stopped snowing," he said. I jumped up. "Stopped snowing?" I cried. "Then perhaps—" "No, of course I can't. I can't walk 20 miles tonight." "Walk 20 miles?" repeated the old man in surprise. "What do you mean?" "My wife is waiting for me," I said. "She does not know where I am. I'm sure she's very worried." "Where is she?" "At Dwalding, 20 miles away." "At Dwalding?" he said slowly. "Yes, that's right. It is 20 miles away. But do you have to go there at once?" "Oh, yes," I answered. "She'll be desperate with worry. I'll do anything." "Well," said the old man, after a moment's hesitation, "there is a coach. It goes along the old coach road every night, and it always stops at Dwalding." He looked at the clock on the wall. "In about an hour and a quarter, the coach should stop at a signpost about 5 miles from here. Jacob can go with you and show you the old coach road that leads to the signpost. If he does that, do you think you'll be able to find the signpost all right?" "Easily. And thank you." He smiled for the first time and rang the bell. He gave Jacob his orders, then turned to me. "You must hurry," he said, "if you want to catch the coach. Good night." I thanked him warmly. I wanted to shake his hand, but he had already turned away. 3. Soon Jacob and I were out on the lonely, snow-covered hills. Although the wind was quieter, it was still bitterly cold. The sky was starless. The only noise in that wild, empty place was the sound of our footsteps in the snow. Jacob did not speak. He walked silently along in front of me, holding the lantern. I followed, with my gun under my arm. I was silent too, because I was thinking about the old man. I could still hear his voice. I remembered every word of our conversation. In fact, I can still remember it today. Suddenly, Jacob stopped and pointed with the lantern. "That's your road. Keep that stone wall on your right, and you can't go wrong." "This is the old coach road, then?" I asked him. "That's right," he growled. "And how far am I from the signpost?" "About 3 miles. Just follow the road. You can't miss it." I took out my wallet, and he became more helpful. "It's a good road," he said, "for walkers. But it was too steep and narrow for coaches. Be careful. The wall is broken near the signpost. It was never mended after the accident." "What accident?" "The night coach went off the road. It fell over the edge of the road and down into the valley. It's a long way down, 50 feet or more. It's a very bad piece of road just there." "How terrible!" I cried. "Were many people killed?" "They were all killed. 4 passengers were found dead, and the driver died the next morning." "How long ago did this happen?" 20 years. My master has been a broken man since that day. His only son was one of the passengers. That's why he shuts himself away in that lonely place." "The wall is broken near the signpost. Thank you. I'll remember that. Good night." I pushed a silver coin into his hand. "Good night, sir, and thank you," said Jacob. He turned and walked away. I watched the light of his lantern until it disappeared. Then I began to walk along the old coach road. This was not difficult. Although it was dark, I could still see the stone wall at the edge of the road. I'm safe, I told myself. but I felt very lonely and a little afraid. I tried to forget my loneliness and fear. I sang and I whistled. I thought about my dear wife, and for a short time I felt better. But the night was very cold. Although I walked quickly, I was unable to keep warm. My hands and feet were like ice. My chest felt icy cold, and I had difficulty in breathing. My gun seemed terribly heavy. I was very tired and began to feel ill. I had to stop and rest for a moment. Just then, I saw a circle of light, a long way away, like the light of a lantern. At first I thought that Jacob had come back again to make sure I was all right. Then I saw a second light beside the first. I realized that they were the two lights of a coach. But how strange, I thought, to use this dangerous old road. Jacob said nobody had used it since that terrible accident. Then I thought again. Have I walked past the signpost in the dark? Is this the night coach that goes to Dwowding after all? Meanwhile, the coach came along the road. It was moving very fast and noiselessly over the snowy road. I saw the huge dark shape of the coach, with its driver on top and its 4 fine grey horses. I jumped forward and shouted and waved. The coach went past me, and for a moment I thought it was not going to stop. But it did stop. The driver did not look at me. The guard seemed to be asleep. Everyone was silent and still. I ran up to the coach. Nobody moved to help me. I had to open the door of the coach for myself with my stiff, frozen fingers. It's empty, I thought. But there were 3 travellers in the coach. None of them moved or looked at me. They all seemed asleep. I got in and sat down. The inside of the coach seemed very cold, even colder than outside. The air inside the coach smelt heavy, damp, and dead. I looked around at the other passengers and tried to start a conversation. "It's very cold tonight," I said politely to the passenger who was sitting opposite me. He turned his head towards me slowly, but did not answer. "I think winter is really here," I continued. The passenger was sitting in a dark corner, and I could not see his face, but I could see his eyes. He was looking straight at me, but still he did not say a word. Why doesn't he answer? I thought. But I did not feel really angry. I was too tired and too cold for that. I was still stiff with cold and tiredness, and the strange damp smell inside the coach was making me feel sick too. I was frozen to my bones and trembling with cold. I turned to the passenger on my left. "May I open the window?" I asked politely. He did not speak. He did not move. I repeated my question more loudly, but he still did not answer. Then I became impatient. I tried to open the window, and I saw the glass. It was covered with dirt. "My God! They haven't cleaned this glass for years," I said to myself. I looked around the coach, and suddenly I thought I understood the reason for the strange smell. Everything was dirty, old and damp. The floor was almost breaking away under my feet. I turned to the third passenger. "This coach is falling to pieces," I said to him. "I expect the coach company are using this one while the usual coach is being repaired." He moved his head slowly and still looked at me in silence. I shall never forget that look. I can still remember it now. His eyes burned with a wild, unnatural light. His face was greenish-white. "Like a dead man," I said to myself. Then I saw that his bloodless lips were pulled back from his huge white teeth. I trembled with fear and horror. Then I looked again at the passenger opposite me. He too was staring at me. His face was deathly white, and his eyes shone with an unearthly light. I looked again at the passenger on my left. I saw... oh, how can I describe him? I saw the face of a dead man. All 3 passengers were dead. A greenish light shone from their terrible faces. Their damp hair smelt of death. Their clothes smelt of the graveyard. I knew then that their bodies were dead. Only their terrible, shining eyes were alive, and they were all staring at me, threatening me. I gave a scream of horror. I had to get out of that terrible place. I threw myself at the door and tried desperately to open it. Just then, the moon came out from behind a cloud. In its cool, silvery light, I suddenly saw everything very clearly. I saw the signpost pointing along the road like a warning finger. I saw the broken wall at the edge of the road. I saw the frightened horses on the edge of a steep drop. I saw the valley 50 feet below us. The coach shook like a ship at sea. There were screams of men and of horses. There was a tearing crash, a moment of terrible pain, and then darkness. 4. A very long time later, I woke from a deep sleep. I found my wife sitting by my bed. What happened?" I asked. "You fell, dear," she said. "The wall was broken at the edge of the road, and you fell down into the valley. It was 50 feet, dear, but you were lucky. There was a lot of deep snow at the bottom, and that saved your life." "I can't remember anything. How did I get here?" 2 farm workers were out early in the morning, looking for their lost sheep. They found you in the snow, and they carried you to the nearest shelter. They fetched a doctor. You were very ill. Your arm was broken, and you had had a terrible bang on the head. You were unconscious and couldn't tell them anything. But the doctor looked in your pockets and found your name and address. So, of course, he called me, my dearest. And I've been looking after you since then. Now you mustn't worry. You must rest and concentrate on getting well again." I was young and healthy, and I was soon out of danger. But while I lay in my bed, I thought about the accident. Perhaps you can guess exactly where I fell that night. It was the place where the coach had gone off the road 20 years before. I never told my wife this story. I told the doctor, but he said that the whole adventure was just a dream, the result of cold, tiredness, and a violent bang on the head. I tried to make him understand, but he refused to listen to me. I did not argue. It did not really matter if he believed me or not. But I knew then, and I know now. 20 years ago, I was a passenger in a ghost coach.